What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another Lions video. Now, the last time that we were here to do a mock draft, the Detroit Lions looked like a very, very different team. In the weeks since I've done my last mock draft, in the weeks since the mock draft 2.0 came out on this channel, the Lions have made a lot of free agent signings. The Lions have had a lot of things change within the organization. The Michael Brockers trade occurred. You got in Dean Marlowe, who was signed just yesterday. You have Corn Elder, Quentin Dunbar, Alex Anzalone, and several other players that were signed within the past couple of weeks that were signed after the second installation of the mock draft. So in today's video, I wanted to revisit the mock draft. Today's video, I wanted to go back, redo the mock draft, reanalyze, reevaluate this Lions team, talk about what they need, and talk about another potential way the Lions could go after a lot of their free agent moves had occurred. So that is what we'll be doing in today's video. Today, we will be doing a mock draft 3.0 and really trying to address some of the Lions' needs and really try to figure out and fix the rest of this Lions team going into the 2021 season. Now, before we get into the mock draft and before we get into this mock draft 3.0, if you're new to the channel and you are enjoying the content, please consider liking the videos and subscribe to the channel. It takes just 2 seconds out of your day to do so. It's quick, free, and easy, and you would be helping the channel out more than you could possibly know. So if you could do that, take those 2 seconds, hit the like and subscribe button, and maybe, just maybe take a third second to hit the bell notification so that you never miss another right or wrong upload. I'd be greatly appreciative for it. But with all that being said and all of that out of the way, let's get right into this mock draft 3.0 and try to fix our Lions going into next season. Now, as we always do in these mock drafts, we're going to start off with the first 6 picks and the 6 selections before our Detroit Lions to talk about where they're sitting at their 7th overall selection, what players are still available, and what the best direction would be to go for this Lions team. Now, with the first overall pick, with no surprise to anybody, Trevor Lawrence goes off the board to the Jacksonville Jaguars. This is how it's been for years now. This is how it's going to be come draft night. There is no speculation. Lawrence will likely be the first overall pick. Now, Zach Wilson was the 2nd overall pick in this mock draft. Again, no surprises here. That's been the way it has been for the past couple of months, and especially with the trade of Sam Darnold, that does not shock me that Zach Wilson is the pick at number 2. Now, this is the first discrepancy from the last mock draft that we did, as last time we were here, the Miami Dolphins actually held the 3rd overall pick, and now that is in the possession of the San Francisco 49ers. Now, the San Francisco 49ers have said multiple times that they like Mac Jones. They've been rumored to be taking Mac Jones numerous times throughout this drafting process. However, in this mock draft, they do in fact take Trey Lance with the 3rd overall selection. Now, Justin Fields goes with the 4th overall selection to the Atlanta Falcons. Quarterbacks go 1, 2, 3, and 4, as many people are predicting them to do so. Nothing crazy as of right now, nothing incredible or nothing out of the ordinary has happened in this draft class, and this is likely what to expect come draft night. Of course, maybe with the quarterback order being switched around, but still 4 quarterbacks going in the top 4. Now, Jamar Chase is the 5th overall selection to the Cincinnati Bengals. Jamar Chase is teaming back up with his former college quarterback, the guy he helped win the Heisman Trophy, and the guy that he won a national championship with. The Bengals select Jamar Chase at 5, and the Dolphins take a wide receiver at 7. They end up taking Jalen Waddle with the 6th overall selection, very similarly to the Cincinnati Bengals, pairing the former quarterback wide receiver duo from that Bama team, pairing Tua Tagovailoa with Jalen Waddle, giving him a familiar weapon and trying to give Tua as many weapons as possible to go into the 2021 season. Now, there is a couple guys on the board that are still really big names and guys that the Lions should and will have their eyes on if they do end up falling. Of course, the biggest name here would be Penei Sewell, the offensive tackle out of Oregon. Rashawn Slater is still here. Kyle Pitts is still on the board, as well as Devontae Smith. All of these are really good prospects, and all of these are prospects that have been talked about with the 7th overall selection. However, if you're a Lions fan, if you know what you're talking about, the only pick that makes sense here is Penei Sewell, the offensive tackle out of Oregon, and that is exactly where the Detroit Lions went with this pick. If Penei Sewell does end up falling somehow to the 7th overall selection, the Lions would be very, very incorrect for not taking him. I mean, this would be the easiest pick Brad Holmes would ever have to make. This would be a slam dunk home run pick that just day one, immediate impact starter with all pro Hall of Fame kind of potential that of Penei Sewell. He's the best offensive tackle to come out in the past couple of decades. I mean, he is a true generational talent. He's just an absolute freak of nature. He is a monster on the offensive line. He stands at 6'6", 331 pounds. In his 2 years at Oregon starting, did opt out last season. He did play in 1,376 snaps for the Ducks, allowing only 1 sack in that time. He was the highest graded offensive lineman in Pro Football Focus history. He was a consensus All-American when he was playing, and actually was the co-Pac-12 Offensive Player of the Year as an offensive lineman. This is an easy pick, right? Penei Sewell, probably one of the best players in this draft, probably the second best player in this draft class. If somehow he does fall to 7, which it seems more likely by the day that this may be occurring, it seems like Ja'Marr Chase is really pushing, or it seems like Joe Burrow is really pushing for Ja'Marr Chase, and it seems like the Dolphins are really intent on taking a weapon. It does seem like Penei Sewell does have a better chance of falling now more than ever, and with the draft fast approaching, it seems like every day that passes by seems like Penei Sewell is more and more likely to fall to the 7th overall spot. So even with even a couple weeks ago, you would have said there's no way Penei Sewell falls. It seems more likely every single day that Penei Sewell will be at the 7th overall pick, and if he's there at number 7, the Lions have to take him. Now, this is the first mock draft that we had not traded down with. This is the first mock draft where the 7th overall pick was actually used by our Detroit Lions. And I mean, as I said, there's a lot of situations where I believe the Lions need to trade down, but if Penei Sewell is there, you have to take him with the 7th overall selection. Now, moving all the way down to the 41st overall selection, the Lions' first, second round selection. They were sitting at 41, and when the 41st overall selection rolled around, the New York Giants had come up with a trade offer to move down just 1 spot to give up the 41st pick in exchange for pick 42, as well as a 2022 5th round pick. I figured it'd be really, really hard not to give that away. I figured it'd be really hard not to accept that trade, so I did it. The Giants moved up 1 spot and actually ended up snagging Jalen Phillips, who I had my eye on. However, I still was happy with the trade. I was still happy picking up an extra 5th round pick and likely a high 5th round pick in the 2022 draft class to move down just 1 spot. Now, sitting at the 42nd overall selection, there was another trade offer to pop up, and it was from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers offered up their 56th overall pick as well as their 64th overall pick to move up to pick 42 and to acquire the 112th pick as well. Now, I decided to pick up this. I decided that if we were going to use the same amount of picks, if we were going to exchange 2 picks for 2 picks, I'd rather have 2 picks inside of the top 70 versus 1 pick there and 1 pick at 112. I figured it was good value. You could get more talent quicker. You could get better talent, or hypothetically better talent higher in the draft, especially, and with it being the same amount of picks, I figured it was a pretty good trade for the Lions, so I accepted that as well, moving down to the 56th overall selection. Now, at pick 56, there was a couple of guys on the board that I had my eye on. Guys like Jabril Cox, the linebacker out of LSU, Elijah Moore, the wide receiver from Ole Miss, Rondale Moore from Purdue, or Asante Samuel Jr. from Florida State. However, I decided to go defense here, and I decided to go with Jabril Cox, the linebacker out of LSU, with the 56th overall selection. Now, Jabril Cox is a 6'4", 231 pound linebacker. Last year for the LSU Tigers, he totaled 58 tackles, 6.5 tackles for loss, 1 sack, 3 interceptions, 5 passes defended, a fumble recovery, as well as a pair of touchdowns. So he does struggle at times to tackle. He does struggle at times to wrap up. He likes to make the flashy hit. He likes to make the flashy play more often than just the clean, secure play, which is something that is going to need to get coached out of him. It's something that is going to need to be coached, and is a problem that is going to be smoothed out and is going to be needed to be smoothed out by our Lions coaching staff. However, if his only problem is that he doesn't wrap up, that is something that is very, very fixable. That is something that, if that's his only flaw, that is an amazing flaw to have, because that's, I would assume and I would think, would be one of the easier things to teach, one of the easiest things to learn as a player, is just to wrap up versus not making the, flashy hit, right? He has the instincts to do everything you need him to do. He has the coverage ability that you can't teach. He has the athleticism. He's big, fast, athletic, rangy guy. You can't teach that. If his biggest problem is that he can't wrap up, and his biggest problem is something that is very, very teachable, then that is a guy that I want with my 2nd round pick, and that is a guy that I will take with the 56th overall selection. Now, with the third pick in the draft for the Lions at pick 64, their second pick in the second round, and just a couple of picks after Jabril Cox, Rondale Moore was still on the board at this point. Rondale Moore was the last guy from that group before that I was still looking at that was still on the board. Elijah Moore went a couple picks earlier, and Asante Samuel went the pick after Jabril Cox. So with that being the case, sitting at pick 64, I decided the best pick of the draft, and I decided the best solution, the best player available with the 64th overall selection was Rondale Moore, the wide receiver from Purdue. Now, Rondale Moore does stand at 5'9", 180 pounds, so he is very, very undersized for a wide receiver. However, he is one of the most dynamic wide receivers you will ever see. In his career at Purdue, he totaled 178 receptions for 1,915 yards and 14 touchdowns, with a majority of that production coming in his freshman year, as he did struggle to stay on the field for the Boilermakers throughout a majority of his collegiate career. That was really my big concern with him. His big concern was that he struggled with injury throughout his time at Purdue. However, when he's on the field, he's a dynamic weapon. He's a dynamic playmaker. I mean, this dude can play wide receiver. This dude can contribute in the run game. This guy can be a kick returner, a punt returner. He can be a dynamic weapon, and having 4.29 speed can give him that much more of an edge over the rest of the competition. He's an explosive athlete. When he's on the field, when he is healthy, he is very, very tough to stop. And if he had played very well, if he had stayed on the field for the entire time he was at Purdue, I have no doubt that he would have been a first round selection. So taking him with the second pick in the second round, taking him with the 64th overall selection, I felt was an absolute steal for Rondale Moore. I mean, you're not going to find a much better talent at 64. You're not going to find a much better guy at 64. You're not going to find much better potential at 64. I think that he has the potential to be the next Tyreek Hill, and I genuinely hate that analogy. I genuinely hate when people are like, oh, this guy's the next Tyreek Hill, or this guy's the next Tyreek Hill. Just because he's short and fast, he's the next Tyreek Hill. I genuinely think Rondale Moore is that guy. I genuinely think Rondale Moore is as explosive. I think he's as fast. I think he's as dynamic. I think he has the playmaking ability to be the next Tyreek Hill. And if you're going to get the next Tyreek Hill at the 64th overall spot, or you even have the chance to get him at that 64th overall spot, if you're the Lions, you take it. You add a young, dynamic playmaker to your wide receiver core, and you replace probably Khalif Raymond off that one-year contract. You bring in a young guy to learn for a year. You bring in that young guy to contribute immediately, and of course, as I said, have that potential to be the next Tyreek Hill. Now, he did impress a lot at his pro day. A lot of people were kind of concerned because of the injury, whether he was going to be less explosive, whether he was going to, the best parts of his game weren't going to be the same anymore. He showed up to his pro day and proved everybody wrong. He ran an unofficial 4.29 40-yard dash, had a 42.5-inch vertical. He was as explosive as ever at his pro day, and that sealed the deal for me with the 64th selection. Now, moving on to the Detroit Lions' actual third round pick 72. I had the Detroit Lions looking at a couple of different people here. However, at the end of the day, I actually decided to go with Davion Nixon, the defensive tackle out of Iowa. Now, Nixon stands at 6'3", 305 pounds at the defensive tackle position. Last year for the Hawkeyes, he totaled 45 total tackles, 13 and a half tackles for loss, 5.5 sacks, an interception that he took back for a touchdown, as well as a forced fumble. And he did that. That would be an impressive season regardless, but he did that in just 8 games for the Iowa Hawkeyes. He's a disruptive player in the middle. He's a disruptive defensive lineman. He was the 2020 Big Ten Defensive Player of the Year, as well as a 2020 consensus All-American. He's very disruptive, very powerful in the middle, gets a lot of tackles for loss, is a really good run defender, can even get you some production with the pass rush. As I said, 5.5 sacks a season ago. He was by far the best player available at this spot, and without a question, without a shadow of a doubt, he was the best pick for the 72nd overall spot. Now, moving down to pick 101, the Lions sit there with 2 picks left in the NFL draft, and with the Lions still needing to address the safety spot, with the Lions still needing to address that secondary, in my opinion, with at least one more player, I had the Lions selecting Talanoa Hufanga, the safety out of USC. Now, Talanoa is a guy that I have talked about numerous times on the channel. The 6'1", 215-pound safety is an absolute weapon. I mean, he's a violent, disruptive player across the middle. Last year for the Trojans, he totaled 62 tackles, 5.5 tackles for loss, 3 sacks, 4 interceptions, and 2 forced fumbles, doing that in just 6 games for USC. As I said, he is a disruptive player. He's a violent player. He would set a tone. He would bring a mindset. He would bring a culture and help build that culture the Lions are trying to build based off hard work, hitting hard, representing the city of Detroit with just that mentality and mindset. He would bring everything the Lions are looking for. In my opinion, he is one of the best fits at safety for the Detroit Lions. He's a playmaker. He's a guy that got much better in coverage a season ago, and a guy that's always been a really good, very violent hitter, guy that forces a lot of fumbles, guys that always looking to get the football. And at the end of the day, just like some of these other players in the class, guys like Andre Sisco that I've talked about, guys like Tyrell Gillespie, he just at the end of the day makes plays for a defense. So at the 101st spot, getting a potential starting safety in Talanoa Hufanga, I thought it was a perfect pick. I thought he was a perfect fit for the USC Trojan to come and join the Detroit Lions. Moving on to the final pick of this draft class, the 6th selection in the Detroit Lions draft class, sitting at pick 153. There was a lot of guys here that I really wanted. There was a lot of guys here that I thought were really good talents and guys that I wanted to get on the roster. Guys like Jamie Newman, Chuba Hubbard, Jared Patterson, Shia Smith, Daz Newsome, Cornell Powell, Marvin Wilson, etc., etc. And of course, as always, as my luck would have it, I was not able to find a consistent trade partner. I was not able to find somebody that was willing to move down, or find somebody that was willing to move down without me having to give up more picks than I felt comfortable with for next season's draft. So with that being the case, being stuck at the 153rd pick, I did a lot of research. I went through a lot of different draft boards. I went through a lot of different scenarios, and I came to the conclusion that the Lions should be selecting Garrett Wallow, the linebacker slash safety out of TCU. Now, this is a guy that I had actually not heard about before this mock draft. Actually, I have not heard about this player before actually selecting him in this mock draft, but seeing him on the board, going through kind of looking at a bunch of linebackers, looking at a bunch of safeties, kind of really looking and focusing on that defensive side of the ball, I came across Garrett Wallow, and I was incredibly impressed with his production, incredibly impressed with his tape, incredibly impressed with just about everything that he did well. Now, Garrett Wallow is a 6'2", 230-pound linebacker or safety. He played safety his freshman year at TCU and then actually transitioned to linebacker for his sophomore, junior, and senior campaigns. Last year for the Horned Frogs, he totaled 90 total tackles, 9 tackles for loss, 2 sacks, a pass defended, and 3 forced fumbles in a shortened season that was riddled with, of course, COVID, and of course with the uncertainty, not a lot of games being played. He still totaled 90 tackles, 9 tackles for loss, 2 sacks, so pass defended, and 3 forced fumbles. A very versatile player, again, played safety and linebacker at TCU. He flies around the field. He's an absolute tackle machine. The season before his junior season, I believe he had 125 tackles and 13 and a half tackles for loss. This dude flies around the field. In his career, he totaled 295 tackles for TCU, 32 and a half tackles for loss, and 8 and a half sacks. This dude with the 153rd pick, I felt was way too good to pass up on. I had not heard of him before this day. I had not heard of him before today when I did this mock draft, but after looking at him, after watching him, he is one of my favorite players in the draft class just like that. He makes a lot of tackles. He flies around the field. Isn't necessarily great in coverage, but that's why we got Jabril Cox. That's why we got our coverage linebacker early. I think Garrett Wallow can come in and kind of replace Jarrad Davis, be a guy that rushes the passer, be a guy that tackles a lot, is a see-ball, chase-ball linebacker. I think he can kind of fill in that Jarrad Davis role where he's not going to be the greatest coverage guy, but you can send him on blitzes, you can just send him after the running back, you could send him to go tackle the ball carrier, and he is going to thrive in that role in Detroit or wherever he ends up going in the NFL. And with the 153rd pick, I felt like the talent and the production was far too much to pass up on for a guy of his caliber. Now, with that being the case, that is the entire mock draft 3.0. That is the exact mock draft that I had put together. I actually think this is one of the best mock drafts I've done. I know it's only 6 picks. I know I did not trade down a lot. This was a very different mock draft from what we had experienced before. However, I feel like this is one of the best mock drafts the Lions could hope for. They got the best offensive lineman in the class with the 7th overall pick, completing that offensive line, and really, getting probably the second best player in this class overall. You then come back in the second round, get get a really good coverage linebacker. Something that our linebacker struggled with a lot last year was the coverage side, was the, playing the ball in the air. That was where they really struggled last year. You get a linebacker that thrives in that scenario. You get a linebacker whose strength is coverage and playing the ball in the air. Then you go back later in the second round, you get a big play wide receiver, the next Tyreek Hill potentially in Rondale Moore. Then you come back early in the third round, you get a disruptive defensive tackle that can help you with the rushing defense as well as the pass rush defense. You then go get a violent playmaking, hard-hitting safety, old school kind of a safety, guys that I've actually heard being compared to Troy Polamalu. Of course, that USC connection, of course, that big playmaking, hard-hitting kind of a safety. That is, of course, where that comparison comes from. And while he's not going to be the next Troy Polamalu, he could be a starter for the Lions as early as the next season. He could be a real good role player for this Lions defense and could make a lot of plays for us. And then you go back in the final pick, you go back late in the fourth round, and you get a tackle machine, a TFL monster, and a guy that can just fly around the field and make a lot of tackles, sideline to sideline guy, a guy that gets to where he needs to be immediately, gets a lot of tackles for loss, gets a lot of penetration, is a really good tackle machine, and unlike Jabril Cox, does actually wrap up and tackle extremely well. That is your draft class. It's only 6 picks, but that's where the Lions started in this draft class anyway. And then you, of course, also have that 5th round pick from the Giants next year, which is likely going to be a high 5th round pick, likely closer to a 4th round pick than anything else. This is a draft class that I was extremely happy with. This is a draft class that I was extremely proud of. I think it plugs a lot of holes for the Lions. It finishes the offensive line. It gives them a young playmaking weapon. It gives them 2 really good linebackers that can do wildly different things, but can both be effective. They get a really good defensive tackle to beef up, to boost up that defensive line, especially to pair with Michael Brockers and John Pennicini if the other guys can't stay healthy. And then with the safety depth problems the Lions have, adding Halanoa Tufunga would be a really, really good addition for the Lions as well. So with all that being said, that is my mock draft 3.0. That is how I see and how I hope this draft class plays out for the Detroit Lions. Let me know what you guys think about this draft down in the comments below. What would you have done differently? What did you like about this draft? What was your favorite pick about this draft? And of course, as I said, what would you change if anything else? So with all that being said, that is what I got for you guys today. That is my mock draft 3.0. Let me know what you think of it down in the comments below. But with all that being said, that is what I got for you guys today. If there's more Lions news or rumors to come out, if there's anything else surrounding our Lions to come out in the next couple of days, of course, I'll make another video talking about it. But until then, that is what I got for you guys today. Thank you all so very much for watching the video. And until next time, and as always, go Lions.